Hi, and welcome to the OverPower Marketing Workshop session. I'm Cohen Powell, and I'm joined with Mustafa Shahed. Today, we're going to be going over the Voice AI outbound calling, how to get it set up, all the steps you need to take, and all the precautions you need to take whenever doing this as well. So, starting things off, we are going to go to the AI agents within our sub account. And then just because I don't have it on my screen, I just took a screenshot. But within the AI agents under Voice AI, there will be an enable outbound calls button here. Now, what this will do is it will take you through a process of verification as well as explaining what outbound calls is, as well as the precautions that you need to take. So whenever you click on that, you'll be greeted with this, the terms for using Voice AI outbound calling, and the additional guidelines. This is very important that we go over this because you could potentially be breaking the law if you break any of these standard guidelines. So, well, first things first, calls are made at a rate of 1 call per minute per location. Each location can make up to 100 calls per day. Each phone number can be called only once per day. Any additional call is scheduled for the next day. Each phone number can be called a maximum of 4 times in 2 weeks. Calls exceeding this limit will fail. Calls are scheduled only between 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. per the contact's phone number time zone. Calls can only be made to contacts who have opted in to receive AI calls and who have not enabled D&D. Calls can only be made to United States numbers. And those are the guidelines that you need to be taking whenever you're about to start your Voice AI outbound calling journey. Now, moving back to the screen, once you completed that, you're going to have to verify your identity with a valid US ID. Um, what I did for this was I just provided my driver's license, and then next we are presented with the consent requirements. Very first thing is we need to provide a consent language for the voice AI that we're going to be opting in for the outbound calls, as well as all of the assets that it's going to be using in order to say schedule appointments or all the different surveys and chat widgets that go along with it. So, very first thing is we're going to be adding a consent language that has a clear statement that uses that the user agrees to receive both text message and phone calls. Excuse me. A disclosure that calls may be automated, pre-recorded, or use a AI voice. A statement that the user agrees to receive marketing communications from your business and information on how the user can opt out for future messages. Now, once this has been created, and I'm going to copy and paste my consent language that I previously made and add it, then we are going to check the compatibility, and then it's passed the compatibility check. Then we are going to choose all the assets and the forms that will go along with it. We can select all of them if we wish to, just to allow all forms of communication to be available for outbound calls. But we're just going to leave it at this for now. Now, going into the actual Voice AI agent, once you've completed that, there's going to be an additional section to the agent details. Right here, there's outbound call. Here, and one thing that you need to know whenever you're about to do the outbound call with your pre-existing Voice AI agents is that it's probably best to make an additional Voice AI agent rather than using a pre-existing one. This is because the inbound call Voice AI agent is going to have different goals and different ways of opening up a conversation than an outbound agent would. So that is a very important thing to keep in mind whenever creating these. So you can make an inbound version or an outbound version of the voice AI agent, or you can just add an outbound settings to the pre-existing agent. But for now, for your outbound call, we're going to add the agent's initial message right after they hear the disclaimer that this is a voice AI agent. We're going to add whatever we wish for the intent message. I'm calling about your upcoming appointment with us. We'll just do that. And then leave it at that. And then we can also add different disclaimer style options, as well as voice and IVR detection and opt out mechanism. Regarding the disclaimer style and options, excuse me, this is going to be what plays before the voice AI agent is actually on the phone with the client. Here it says, "Hi, contact first name. This is OverPower Marketing's AI assistant." You can say, "Don't call me again" to opt out, and then it'll initiate its initial greeting. We are able to change the disclaimer however we wish. We can make it concise. We can use the standard disclaimer. "Hi, contact first name. This is Jeff, an AI assistant with OverPower Marketing. If you prefer not to receive these calls, just say 'Don't call me again' to opt out." We can make it more conversational, or we are able to write our own as well, where it will need to be verified to make sure that it falls within the guidelines that we were previously talking about. However, it's just better to use one of these three options instead. And then there are also additional settings that you don't need to worry about right now, as this is just a brief summary of what to expect whenever you're starting your outbound call journey. And now I'm going to be passing it over to Mustafa, where he's going to explain how to create the automations on how to get your voice AI agent to actually start getting calls. So,
Awesome.
Mustafa?
All right. I'm sharing my screen, even though the automation is pretty straightforward, but let me just give you an understanding regarding what, in which cases will you be using outbound voice AI. Again, you can use it how to however you want to, but I highly recommend don't use it for cold calling. Why? Understand this: if you're using outbound voice AI, it has a lot of disclaimers, it has a lot of guidelines and everything. The one thing that you can use it for in different cases is, for example, you have a lot of appointments booked and you need someone to call these people, and the call message will not be just about reminding them. It's also about, hey Mustafa, are you prepared to have the meeting today at 12 p.m.? If not, we can easily reschedule or cancel it or postpone it. So you are, when you make these calls or you use outbound voice AI calls, you are basically giving yourself that boost in the show up rates. And if the people do not have the time, or they forgot about it, or they miss, or they are planning to miss out on the appointment, you are enabling them to reschedule that appointment on the spot. So that's one case. Other cases would be if someone has to make a payment, maybe for a retainer service or a service something, they can just get the call. Hey, just reminding you about your invoice due in 3 days. And since I'm already on the call with you, are you satisfied with the service that we provided? If they say yes, would you like to leave a feedback? And I send you an email. If they say no, that's okay. Should I have someone from the customer management department give you a call so you can, so they can get down the query? Everything that you need to basically give that personal touch to someone who's already using your services, or they have interacted with your message. Do not use it on cold or outbound calls for cold calling. But why? Because again, we have some limitations within that. So if I go into the workflows itself, the trigger could be anything. It could be a, whenever a form has been submitted, give out a call. Whenever an appointment has been booked, give out a call. Or whenever you want to make a call, we can have it happen. All right. Now, what is the voice AI? When you actually use this action, it tells you the guidelines. Now, the first guideline is that up to 1,000 calls per day per location, sent at 10 calls per minute. If you're running an outbound call center, you can't do 10 calls per minute. I mean, that's not viable. It's not financially viable. Why do I need to enforce on that or emphasize on that? Because people, when they hear about, oh, outbound voice AI, I can have an AI setup just making these calls 24/7. No, it's not going to happen that way. At least not legally, at least not within the United States. Anyways, so when you have 10 calls per minute, you need to use them efficiently. It could be about payment reminders, it could be about the form submissions, it could be about the inquiries they have put forward, it could be about the upcoming appointments they have, it could be about a workshop or a webinar or a podcast that you're doing, and they showed some sort of an interest by filling out a form. Then the calls are scheduled automatically between 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in each contact's time zone. So, not in your time zone, but the person on the receiving end based on their time zone. Each phone number can be reached once per day with overflow automatically queued, no manual tracking required. What that means is every person can only be receiving one AI outbound call per day. And if they miss out the call, it will be automatically be queued back into the system. So you don't need to track that manually. And only contacts who have opted in have DND on, and have a domestic number will be called. So with these 3 to 4 different guidelines, it does not make sense to use them for a call center or a bulk cold calling campaign to use the voice AI. However, you can use this AI to replace some of the people or some of the things that a human had to do, which would be to remind people about their upcoming appointments. Usually, what dentists do, usually what you see in the service department. Hey, we have a schedule for you that we are coming to your house by 3 p.m. for the plumbing service or this service or that service. You can have AI set that up, so you don't have to manage that physically or manually, basically. And then all you need to do is select the agent that you already prepared for it, and then select the phone number from which you'll be making or sending out that outbound call. So yeah, that's as simple as that. Again, the use cases might be limited, but the limited use cases still have a lot of potential. So that's how you set up your voice AI outbound call. And once you do, it will start working on it by itself. And there you go from there. I hope that was simple enough and easy enough to understand. Oh, and since we are already in the automations, we do have one more new thing, which is still in the beta version, but it's overview. So what it does is it tells you all the total workflows you have, the published workflows, total enrollments in those workflows, error reviews, and basically everything to understand how much automated or the assets are connected within the system. This is something that it's beauty to my eyes, but yeah, since I find it fascinating, I just wanted to share it with you guys as well. So yeah, that would cover the voice AI outbound. And Cohen, would you like to tell them about the support and how they can reach out to us?
Yeah, of course. Give me one moment to share my screen.
Absolutely.
All right. And in addition to what we were just talking about, is that whenever you're making the voice AI agent for outbound calls, if, say, for example, a client opts out to receive calls from the outbound agent, they will be marked as do not disturb. And once they have been marked as do not disturb, they will not receive any automated email, messaging, or any further outbound calls from the system, meaning you would have to either get them to opt back in or remove it manually. However, if you remove it manually, you would be, without their consent, you would be breaking some rules as far as the, I believe it's called the TCPA, which you wouldn't want to do because that would result in heavy fines. But yeah, moving on to our support, we have the submit request. Submit request is just in case you're coming across any issues in your sub account and you can provide evidence of a screen recording or through image attachments. Fill out all the fields accordingly, and we will be more than happy to fix any issue that you're coming across and get back with you as soon as we possibly can. Next is the support meeting. Here is a calendar where you can set up any type of support meeting that you wish to go over your sub account. Here we have the calendar available, and you just select a date and time, fill out all the fields, and then we will be more than happy to get on a meeting with you through Google Meet. And then finally is the knowledge base. Knowledge base is has a wide variety of articles available to you regarding OPM tools. It provides you all types of knowledge, including the topics that we just went over today. So if you want to learn more about OPM tools and just be more familiar with the software, this is where you would want to go. But yeah, that is just about everything.
And just to remind you, for next week, we'll be going over conversational AI, which is not exactly voice AI. What that does is it responds to your clientele, your people, but in a more conversational sort of a view. But the channels would be live chat, SMS, emails, social media, and so on and so forth. But this was for voice AI and all the new updates. That the next one, the next week one, would be about emails or live chat widgets and stuff like that. So I hope to see you all of you there as well. And again, if you have any questions, recommendations, concerns, feel free to share with us, or you can email us at support@overpowermarketing.com, and we'll be more than happy to look over into it. Until then, until next week, bye.